Let's talk tourism.
Colin Brownlee is the owner of Hotel Banana Azul, one of the top-rated boutique hotels on Costa Rica's other coast, the Caribbean town of Puerto Viejo. He hails originally from Canada, is a talented digital marketer, an advocate for LGBT tourism, and also quite active in local politics. Colin, let's talk tourism.
Hi, Casey. Thanks.
How you doing? How have things
Good.
been? How you been lately?
Actually, better than I was expecting.
Awesome.
We're holding together all right.
Your hotel in particular, and I guess to a degree the Caribbean in particular, seems to have been quite popular with domestic tourism. Pleasant surprise there?
Yes, actually a big surprise. We would say about 1 out of every 3 or 1 out of every 4 guests from Costa Rica have never been to the Caribbean before, and are really surprised to find that they didn't know that this coast part of their country existed.
That's incredible. So take us back in time. How did you get to Costa Rica, and how in the heck did you get into the tourism game?
Well, I used to be in marketing and advertising for my full career since I was in my early 20s. And that was all fun and everything, especially when it was back in print. But over the years, it went very digital, and I never actually talked to customers anymore. And it was all about the money and data, and it was just became not fun anymore. It was much better money, but the job itself wasn't very appealing. And then I took a trip to Hawaii and stayed in a boutique hotel, something like the one I created. And, looked at this and the person running it, and I thought, I want to do this. And that started me on a journey to do this. And I chose Costa Rica because of it was up and coming. This was 20 years ago, and it was same time zone and had a lot of the ingredients that I felt was really good. And then doing internet search, I found this little town of Puerto Viejo and saw that it was very bohemian and funky and all of this, and kind of, one of these sleeper towns, and it really impressed me, and I went to visit, and it exceeded my expectations. And then I went all over Costa Rica looking for something better, and I still felt that Puerto Viejo was my best choice.
Awesome.
That's it in a nutshell.
What year was it that you got started then?
I came to Costa Rica in January 2005, and the hotel opened in April 2007.
Just in time for the crisis.
Yeah.
Crisis to crisis.
We didn't even notice it because we were still growing.
I feel your pain. So I can imagine there were a lot of challenges and headaches getting started, right? What were some of the more notable ones?
Well, given that I've never swung a hammer, construction was definitely in a foreign country and a different language. And back then we didn't even have a cement mixer to mix the, we have, over 3,000 square feet of, cement space. And we had to do that all in a wheelbarrow. So just those are some of the kinds of challenges, and
Nice.
it never ended actually, and still to this day, of course, they do.
Obviously you're all in on the Caribbean, and most of us in tourism are huge fans. But it still feels like for the mass markets, it's just getting really discovered. What do you think are the biggest misconceptions that tourists have about the Caribbean coast?
I think the crime is probably one of the bigger misconceptions, and not to underplay that but like every tourism community these days, we go through ups and downs of crime, but there always seems to be a bit more focus in the media on the Caribbean. And you can read an article about something in Guanacaste, and paragraph 3 is when you find out what town it was in, and if it's the Caribbean, it's the headline. And so it helps generate misconceptions, and also over the years I've seen that improve because there's way more policing and community policing. And also the weather, people have if you look on the Weather Channel, it's always raining or going to rain, which is almost never the case because there's just so many pockets there. And most of the rain comes at night. And so actually we have really quite, you know, palatable weather. But it's not like Guanacaste, which is pretty well in dry season is guaranteed sun. Ours is more, you know, varied.
Scattered showers. You know, I've had some discussions with a handful of other tourism people about how ineffective weather data can be in the way we traditionally consume it. In that when you open up the Weather Channel, it says Caribbean raining today. What it doesn't tell you is it rained at midnight.
Right.
And if there's one thing we know about this tiny little isthmus, it can rain to beat the band for 20 minutes and then gone.
And it could also be 5 kilometers away from you.
Yeah, so it almost feels, and we also know that the weather beacons for the Weather Channel and the other famous ones, there aren't that many. So it's not terribly accurate. That beacon might be in Limon, an hour from Puerto Viejo, but saying Puerto Viejo is rainy.
Yes, yeah.
Don't know how we fix that, but it is a bit of a barrier for some folks.
Yes, we try and educate our clients, but again, we want full transparency and don't want to mislead them. So if you're looking for a guaranteed sun vacation and it's the season, yeah, we tell people that Guanacaste in the Pacific is your best option. But we offer something different and to a different type of traveler, and it seems to resonate well with many people. Otherwise, we would be in business.
How would you describe that secret sauce, the flavor of the Caribbean that's so different? Because obviously the kind of tourist that goes there, and particularly the expats who love it, who fall in love with it, they're a very distinct crowd. What is it that draws people?
Well, distinct is a polite word. I guess what really intrigues me is that the Caribbean, the South Caribbean, Puerto Viejo, Caudita, is not for everyone. And that's what makes it special. And I always preface that with, we don't do well with the Disney set. And really also the diversity is unreal. You have so many, first of all, before the expats came, you have a huge indigenous community that is actually just, you don't know is there because they're just a few kilometers away in the mountains. And then you also have, a huge African Caribbean community, which is very evident, and the culture is very evident everywhere. And then you have your Ticos, and you have Panamanians because of the proximity to the border. And then you have lots of Nicaraguans that are there because of the work in the banana plantations and other things. And also for the longest time, they were able to hide out there with no problems from immigration and everything. And then, on top of all that, you have expats from all over the world.
Yeah.
And it's, more diverse than any tourism community I've ever seen in Costa Rica or Latin America for that matter. And
pretty well integrated, right? There aren't huge barriers, there aren't gated communities, there's not a wealthy side of town and a broke side of town. It's pretty interesting.
And that's another thing that makes it feel very comfortable is everyone feels like it's their place there, and I was surprised that I was nervous moving in there and wondered how I would feel there, and I feel very, very comfortable after all these years.
That's incredible. You're the rare hotel owner who's actually a very savvy internet marketer. What's some basic advice that you would give others on why aren't you doing this, or please stop doing that?
I guess, the most important thing, of course, is do make sure your place is of really good value. I'll tell you a little quick story that where I sort of, the light bulb went off. I was in Vancouver on one of my trips to Canada, and I bought some Apple equipment and in the Mac store, and it was really exciting. And this girl tended me, and she was really good, and her parents did bird watching tours in Costa Rica and blah blah blah. And anyway, I got one of those surveys from Apple after how was my experience. Da, 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 da. Normally, I wouldn't fill them out, but I wanted to because this girl was so good, and I wanted to make sure that she was maybe recognized. And anyway. So I gave everything an 8 out of 10, which classified me as a very satisfied customer. And including that, would you recommend Apple products to other people and blah, blah, blah. And I said, yes, yes, yes. And I only gave them 8 because it's one thing I don't like about Apple is all their proprietary software. So then about a week later, I got a call from Apple. And now remember, they have records of all of my Apple devices, which is everything. And I got a call from them and they said, oh yeah, we're calling from Apple, blah, blah, blah. And I said, yeah, well, I filled out the survey. They said, yes, that's what I'm calling you about. And they said, we see you're a very satisfied customer and we just wanted to ask you a couple questions. And the one question that they asked me was, if we could do one thing to move you from a very satisfied customer into an extremely satisfied customer, which is their maximum rating, what would that be? And I just thought, oh my God, that's it. That is what Apple did and took over the whole computer market, And that is the one thing we do when we send out our surveys now, is we send out not a questionnaire or anything like that, is just how much out of 5, what do you give us? And if there was one thing that we could have done to improve your stay, what would that be? And you'd be amazed what people tell you. You don't sleep in the rooms, so you have no idea.
Yeah.
And so I really, if you really want to deep dive into your customers, that's the way to do it.
It's great. It's great. That segues nicely into my next question, which is, I think one of the stigmas of running a service business, whether it's a myth or not, on the Caribbean coast has always been the challenge of finding and retaining really great talent. It seems like you've done that better than the average. Dare I say nailed it? What's the secret?
Well, over the years, we found that local people, even though they don't have the education that people in San Jose or Central Valley have, tend to be the best employees, mainly because they stay. And that you also realize that you just have to train them. You just have to. And we have a high bar, but we also make sure that we are a place that they want to work. And don't feel compelled to go work in other places. So we do extra vacations and bonuses and parties and things like that to keep the staff as a committed member of the team.
That's really wonderful, and I think it's great that you show it can be done. Because I think
one other thing we do quickly, sorry to interrupt, that I found very helpful is we post all of the reviews for the staff to read, including housekeeping. And if they're in English, which most of them are, we translate them to make sure that all of the staff get to know that the customers really do notice and appreciate your work.
Yeah.
And so we find that very helpful as well.
For better or for worse, I've owned and operated 2 hotels of my own, and it's amazing how much customers in boutique hotels, and maybe it's specific to Costa Rica, really engage, interact, and appreciate the entry level help.
Yes.
So
yes.
Even the lady turning down the beds, and that just seems to be a uniquely Costa Rican.
Yes, well, Costa Ricans are famously known as very friendly.
Yeah.
And so part of our success also in the Caribbean is because we get a unique clientele that actually chose to go there rather than picking an all-inclusive somewhere or something like that, that are chosen to be on the Caribbean and at the Banana Azul. So they tend to not be your traditional traveler. And 95% of them are actually nice, decent people that I would sit down and have a drink with. And I realized that's part of the success of the staff is because they're serving nice people.
Yeah.
So it's easy to be nice
Yeah.
if you're serving nice people.
Yeah.
So it took me years to figure that out, but it's part of the secret sauce.
If you went back and could have corrected any of your early errors, what were the most glaring misconceptions you had, or things you're like, oh, that's totally going to work, and didn't?
Yeah, well, the first one was right out the gate, as I was going to make it a hotel that exclusively catered to the LGBT community, because there's ones on the Pacific that do all right, and I realized right away that was not going to work, and
why? Too small a market?
Too small a market, and yeah, and it was just, and then trying to get them over to the Caribbean, I just realized. So I just decided we're going to open it up to everybody, and whoever comes, we'll just, we'll advertise what we are and go with that. That has been the absolute best thing that ever happened to me. And then a few years into it, we just discovered who was our best client, and it was couples. And so we changed to an adults only hotel from 16 and up. And that was also a really big turning point where we did very well. We got a lot of criticism because that was back at a time then people didn't do that in Costa Rica. Yeah. But I stuck with it, and yeah, and that's our market. And we've, many years in a row have been rated, in the top 25 in Costa Rica romantic hotels on TripAdvisor, and we're not a luxury hotel. We're more of a very consumer oriented.
Bohemian chic.
Yeah. Depends on what room you get about the chic. You're always guaranteed bohemian.
I want to go on the record and say that if and when Costa Rica approves this remote worker visa, that it was Colin Brownlee's original idea. On that topic, though, speaking about niches and trends in tourism, are you seeing demand for this already?
Absolutely, and thanks to you, you suggested about putting a remote worker package right on my website, and I did that. And guess what? People are buying it.
That's great.
I'm totally shocked because they start at $3,000 a month, and I thought, well, why would people do this versus staying in an Airbnb and and again, this is what you don't know anything about your client, and I love continually to be shocked and wrong because it opened up a whole new paradigm for me.
Yeah, I mean, that's the only way to be. I'm sure you've seen that now Marriott's pushing this work from hotel notion. And this is the beauty of, I guess, stressful moments in time, is it creates innovation. And this whole long-term stay, obviously Airbnb brought a whole new thing about with long-term rentals and homes into rentals. But I think that the hotel as long-term stay could be here to stay. Let's see.
I also believe that, if you're going to work abroad and had to choose different places where to stay, I mean, you tell me something that's better than Costa Rica.
Right.
I mean, we've got all the ingredients for an amazing destination to work away, even just for a few months,
And who wants to make their own bed? Let's be honest.
Exactly. And a restaurant downstairs and everything like that, and
and another key I think of a lot of these hotels, yours included, is reliable fast internet.
Absolutely.
That's the thing that's hard to guarantee at a home rental. Any other post-pandemic changes, assumptions, things you had to throw out the window, minor innovations that you've discovered along the way? I mean, you've all had half a year basically throwing out the playbook. What have you learned?
Well, it is looking that people are moving to longer stays, and so we're actually, some of our rooms don't have fridges in them, and we're putting fridges in all the rooms. That seems to be something that people with longer stays want, that they can keep things cold and stuff like that. And the other thing is, I'm seeing a trend as well as, and this has been happening for a while, is, people don't want to eat in a restaurant every night. And it's maybe not just because of budget, but also it's like, when you get home and it's 6 o'clock and you're just kind of tired and everything, and you think, oh God, I don't want to go out for a restaurant. So we are opening up a market that's going to be something like a mini Whole Foods or something, which has good takeaway foods that people can take their, chicken dish or pizza or whatever into their room with their own bottle of wine and sit and watch Netflix. We really see this with the, with seasoned mature travelers, but also millennials really like that type of service. So, and I'm seeing that in different hotels in New York and everything, where right in the lobby is they have takeaway foods, and it's not a hostel. It's a nice hotel. So
sounds like a winner.
Yeah.
Last question. When you return to Canada and you see your old friends, how would they say Costa Rica has changed you?
They just can really see how happy and fulfilled I am, and that I think is, and they were all a little nervous and questionable in the beginning, and so was my family, but there's just no doubt, that this was the right thing for me, and I'm a lifer. I got a Costa Rican citizenship, and I'm, for better or for worse, through illness and health.
Well, Colin, it's always fun talking tourism with you. Thank you so much for your time, and hope we can talk again soon.
Great. Thanks for doing this, Casey.
No worries. Have a great day.
Let's talk tourism.